Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another YouTube video, Sisterly Conversations.
So, our topic today is pro-life versus pro-choice. What are your thoughts? And what I would say about this topic is that it's a very controversial topic. Um, you know, People have felt very strongly about both sides of the coin, and so when I think about the topic, I would have to give my standpoint, um, which is to start off. There are two reasons why it might be assumed that I might be pro-life, um, and that's because one, having been what do I want to say, challenges, having had to battle endometriosis, and it came along with a lot of different things, a lot of different negatives, etc. For me, um, you would assume persons would assume that I would be pro-life for the simple fact that one of the issues with endometriosis is infertility, and um, so I'm on several endometriosis chats or community groups and so on, and I have to see the terror that this disease have done to so many people, including causing people to have challenges in getting pregnant, or people at such young ages having to have hysteroscopies. It's hysteroscopies, right? Not hysteroscopies, sorry, it's hysterectomies, right? My bad. Um, and having that what's the word I'm looking for? Having that, I don't want to only say blessing, but having that taken away from them, right? But and the other reason that I would say it would be assumed that I'm pro-life is because as Christians, right, people would usually say, God does not uh, agree with abortion, right? Um, but for me personally, aside from all this extra stuff, I have to say that um, as with divorce, it's based on a situation. Yes, I had endometriosis, and I may be dealing with my own situations as well in terms of you know, pregnancy, or all the other extra stuff. And also, I'm a Christian, and I believe that, you should cherish your children. I do not believe in people abusing children and all that other stuff. But again, it comes down to a personal situation. There's so many reasons why people have chosen to end a pregnancy. And it's so easy for people to judge people without knowing their situation. It's just like a topic I always say with weight. You might see somebody gaining a lot of weight or losing a lot of weight, and you're not living with the person. You don't have an idea what that person is going through. It's easy to be like, oh, that boy looks stink here. Why happened she lost so much weight? What happened this? What happened that? And you don't have an idea the demons that person is battling. You don't know the health challenges. You don't know if it might be a case of mental health. You don't know. You don't know. It might be a case of a person, having food challenges, being bulimic, whatever. You don't know the situation. So the best thing to do is stop judging people. You know what I mean? You are not in a situation. My situation is not your situation. So for me, you can look at me and say something, I would get offended based on what you said. But then when the tables turn and the fingers point to you, is a problem. Just because this situation is not your situation does not mean that you get to, tear down and break down people. So, regardless of the choice, regardless of the reasons why somebody chooses to get rid of a pregnancy, I am on, like I said, I'm on several groups. And I remember one of the groups I was on, a lady was trying to get pregnant. She was going through IVF trying to get pregnant. And um, she got pregnant with, I think she got pregnant with twins, right? And unfortunately, throughout the pregnancy, because as technology has become more advanced and as science have advanced as well, and so on and so forth, now you can see a lot of what's going on when you're pregnant compared to when the child has already been born. So obviously, her checkups and everything, the doctor came and told her, you know what, this baby is going to be a conjoined twin, right? And a lot along with the conjoined, there's going to be a lot of other health challenges that these children will have to face when they grow up. Now not only are you do you have to think about having to support them emotionally and having to support them physically, but you also will have to support them financially because there's a lot of doctor visits, there's a lot of hospital visits. You don't know if in the end.
Go ahead.
So sorry about that interruption. But as I was saying, not only emotionally, physically, but also financially, because a lot of doctor visits, a lot of hospital visits, and you don't know, what other things would have come up. And so she had a choice, and her choice was, should I keep them or should I get rid of them? And she chose to get rid of them. And she felt so guilty within herself, her spirit, because it's like, well, I'm trained to have a child. Obviously, she could not have a child for her health reasons, and she had to go through different ways of getting children through, like I said, through IVF and stuff. But now she has come to the point now after being pregnant and getting her children, now, well, not giving birth to them yet, but no, she had to make the awful decision to get rid of them because she did not want them to enter a world where they would have pain, suffering, and so on and so forth. And, the good thing about the community was that, including myself, was that everybody was so supportive because we have a bunch of people who are sharing their experiences, and a lot of people also in a stage of either in the process of getting kids or would have gotten a child, or whatever. And people, you can feel sympathetic to her situation because now she has to start all over again. Everybody that knows IVF knows it's not cheap, right? So it's a very messed up situation. But this is the situation. That's only one case. There's a lot of people who would have had to go through, different horrific situations that led to a pregnancy, such as rape and so on and so forth. And again, people aren't always going to tell you their story, but you can't just assume that they're doing it just because they're doing it. You know what I mean? But it comes down to a choice. So am I pro-life, pro-choice? I can't really say which I do. For me, I'm more open because due to situations, you never know. People have to do what they have to do based on their situations.
Well, that was a long spell, my sister. But I would say everybody has the power of choice. I do not like the law that was passed recently in the States about saying, oh, women cannot have abortions. I believe that this is our body, and like Shanita said, you have to be aware of certain circumstances that could happen. For example, like she spoke about rape. Another one she spoke about was dealing with a child who is going to have special needs. You Shanita mentioned about persons, the mother has to support them financially, emotionally, physically. However, this is not just a situation whereby I have a child for 18 years and then I can let them go. You have to literally support that child to the day he or she passes away, right?
Mm.
So you have to ask yourself these questions. Can I handle this? Can I not handle this? In terms of rape, you bring forth a child out of rape and then treat them really badly, right? And then be like, oh, Will you father rape me? And this, that's the third. If you know that you can handle it, even if the child looks like you are the father, you need to love your child, no matter what the circumstance is. So I believe, especially as a healthcare professional, I believe everybody should have the power of choice to do what they want to do to their bodies, and that's just me. No, as a person, no, I have the same belief, but however, I prefer pro-life in that you bring your children to the world, but there are exemptions as it relates to doing that, because at the end of the day it's still a life. It still has the child still has a heartbeat or whatever. But I think that you must know what you can handle and what to do when the child if you if the child goes, like, aborting, you still got psychological issues to deal with, because now you're gonna be thinking you're a failure. You'll think that God is gonna punish you, all kind of thing. Like, it's a whole set of stuff. So it's like all around it's still gonna be a problem. So choose which problem you want to deal with. So that's just me.
Yeah, and even within your answer to it one, you could see the confliction.
Yeah.
And what was I gonna say? Yeah, and so it just goes to show why it is a controversial topic, because at the end of the day, you want, you know, who doesn't love babies? I mean, I don't know. Not everybody might love babies, but majority of people love babies,
And like the
right?
small
And
babies.
you want every person to have a chance at life,
Mhm.
right? So it's conflicting, but at the same time, there's so many situations that can come up why a person chooses to get rid of their child. We talked about health reasons. We talked about rape. There's even a situation where a person might be too old, and they might not want to have any more children because they've reached that stage where, their children are all grown, and now they have to start all over again from scratch, and they didn't mean to get pregnant or whatever, and they have to make that decision. Do I want to get pregnant? Do I want to do this all over again? You know what I mean? So, and some people might be like, yeah, but children are blessings from God and stuff. But again, but that's on you. That's what you believe. And yes, children are a blessing from God, but you are also not in the position where you're going to be helping the person raise a child.
True.
You don't know their financial situation. You don't know if they now have to look to depend on family members or other people to support their child. You understand? So it's easy. I find a lot of people when it comes to advice, and nothing is wrong with giving advice, but there are a lot of situations where people tend to give advice, but then when they find themselves in the same predicament or a similar predicament, they do something completely and totally different than the advice that they would have given somebody. I remember my parents always told me of this story too. This is not on pro-life, pro-choice, or whatever. But my parents always told me of this story where, in Barbados, we or anybody from the Caribbean would know that we set CSCs, right? And this woman, well, in my country, we have different schools that we go to for high school. And this woman, she decided her child was going to Springer, I think it was. I think her child had passed with Springer. And she had a friend. And her friend said, "Oh, why you gonna let your child go to Springer? Da 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 da. You should never let she go to Springer, whatever." And she discouraged that woman to the point where the woman made a decision. She's not letting her child go to Springer. Look here, I think it was 2 years later. It was her turn now for her child
To
to
set the
go
11
to set
plus.
the 11 plus exam.
Mm.
And it so turned out that her child passed for Springer. And guess what? I guess where her child ended up going?
That's for you.
To Springer. Right? So I'm not saying that you can't take people's advice or you can't listen to people's opinions, but the ultimate decision belongs to you. And only you know your own situation. Only you can walk your path. So regardless of what I'm going through or my own situation, regardless of what Tony's going through her own situation, it does not make me make a choice for pro life because of my own situation where I might now have to go through um, fertility treatments or whatever situation that I'm going through, or because a million people in the world are struggling to have kids, nobody should ever get rid of a child, because again it depends on the situation. And that's the reality. A lot of people too are teenage parents, and that's another thing too. What if a teenager doesn't have the support to take care of a child when they're a teenager? You know what I mean? So unfortunately, it's sad that we even have to have these type of conversations. But I think these type of conversations are super important because people tend to question themselves. People tend to feel disgusted with themselves. People tend to feel horrible, like nobody understands their predicament or their plight or whatever. But at the same time, just hearing people talk about the situation that they're going through could encourage somebody to, make the decision that they need to make for themselves. And that's what we're here to do.
Okay. I wanted to add something every since, but I was trying to remember, but I remember now. I wanted to go back on something Shanita said in terms of why people decide to abort. A very big one. We look at physical and mental, social, but nobody looks at social. The social aspect of why persons abort children. They may not live in a proper home. They may not. They may not. They may come from a home where a million people live in the house, like extended family. There might be an incest pregnancy as well. And then there's some that cannot really do for themselves physically. Like you got some women that literally got taken advantage of and is pregnant and cannot support their children or whatever. So I mean, yeah, Shanita would have mentioned that, but I want to say too, like again, we are bringing home the point. It is your choice to make what
Decision.
decision you want to make, because at the end of the day, everybody can talk and say, "Oh yeah, you should have keep the baby," but then when the baby come and it crying and it carrying on and everything, where are these same people? Them in them house sleeping.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. So just as I said, in just similarly with the as I mentioned earlier with the situation of divorce, and this is another topic I guess we will do as I like to say on another day, and then I don't remember half the topics. But but when somebody has to go through a divorce, you hear all types of talk. A lot of people don't even want to get divorced because they're worried about what other people have to say about it.
mhm,
Um, but at the end of the day, and people like to quote the Bible a lot when it comes to divorce. Oh, you shouldn't get divorced because God didn't sanction divorces and this and that. But at the end of the day, you're not in a person's house.
right,
You don't know what the person's going through in their relationship. You don't know if there's abuse. You don't know if there's infidelity. You don't know if there's drug abuse. You don't know if there's there's so many different reasons why people might decide they have to end it.
correct,
And unfortunately, you aren't God, so you don't know. You can't make that decision of if somebody will get to heaven or not because they chose to have a divorce. So again, it's just a reminder to us as people to be careful what we project on other people, because we don't know what other people are going through. And if we had to walk a day in some
people
people's
choose
shoes,
true,
we would not even be able to make it after the first step because it's so difficult.
true.
So yeah, that's all I really have to say on this topic, and I hope it would have encouraged people. And you can also give us your own thoughts if you have them on
In the comment
the
section.
pro-life versus pro-choice and other surrounding topics.
So please like
Share.
and subscribe. Until next time, bye.
Bye.